hearing the word chaos practitioner that just loves to inflict trauma on others, that likes drama but conceals it. This person feeds off drama. They feed off the fact that they know that they've hurt someone, they know that they've controlled a situation, a person, an environment, but they can't control you. People are not going to respect them. That's the biggest karma. They're going to lose a lot of respect. This Saturn in Aries is going to run rings around this person. Their foundation is going to come crashing down. They like to give people tower moment. They're going to feel like they're in a washing machine. You know when you put trainers in a washing machine, it's boom, boom, boom. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's what they want for you. And they love this thing of having status and people must bow. No one ain't bowing down to no one. People are going to be repelled by their energy. People don't care about who they're connected to, who they're married to, how much money they've got, who they work for, what business. People don't care. All people are going to see is that this person is a liability, and people are going to start connecting the dots that ever since they aligned with this person, things started to go downhill for them. And other people will catch wind of this and feel like, I don't want to be around this person, because if I connect to this person on a friendship level, romantic level, whatever level, right, working level, I'm going to be stuck and trapped like them, and nothing good is going to come out of this. You see, you didn't even have to lift a finger. Your character exposed this person. So yeah, you are walking karma. And this person, for some of you, they're still going to try because they feel like they need to rival you. They feel like they need to stop and block you from achieving something that they feel they will never possess. And it's going to run them right down to their own demise. For some of you, it's going to make this person end up crashing out because they will not want to admit defeat. So they're going to keep trying and trying and trying and trying and trying, and then they're going to expose that they're unstable. You're in reputation. They're going to be exposed that they're jealous of you. You're in reputation. They're going to be exposed that they're jealous of you and that they have been trying to stop and block and harass you, frame you. You're in reputation. This person's unstable. If they've done that to my butterflies, they'll do it to me. Best we move away from this person. So this person's going to be alone in their own mental prison. But the jail that they plan for you, you know what I'm going to say, guys, is the one that they are going to rot in. Mm-hmm. You or the people mentioned in this reading could be of the signs Taurus, Virgo, Libra, Taurus, Capricorn, Leo, Pisces, Leo, Aquarius, Pisces, Taurus, Aquarius, Leo, Pisces, Cancer, Pisces, Aquarius, Taurus, Scorpio, Leo. We've got Pisces again. We've got Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Libra, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, Gemini, Aries, and Aries again. So something very prominent could happen definitely during the Saturn and Aries during the Saturn Aries transit.
What's up?
This Neptune Aries transit.
How we doing?
What was hidden before is going to be exposed.
Hello. How you doing, man?
This Uranus in Gemini transit as well will expose this person's unstability. Right. And many people will be shocked, like, why didn't I see it sooner? This exposure couldn't have happened any sooner.
How are you?
Because you didn't know this person. It took for this person to try and dabble in your energy for the repercussions to expose
just a small art.
What this person is
and who this actual
person is. vengeful, demonic energy who made a mistake of trying to conquer you.
With the boy.
After some realizing that it was one of the worst things they could have ever did.
Uh-oh. Watch out. Oh, excuse me. How are you anyway, mate? You alright? The heart, man. Was that in your state or was that in America in general? I'll tell you what, last night I saw a snippet of the UFC at the White House, I think it was. I looked at it, I just seen these two guys, just fucking Dana White and Big Don. I thought they didn't fucking look right. They do not look right, these two. And Dana White's eyes look black. I put a post up about it. I couldn't believe it. I thought surely this ain't right. That was really weird. Something weird going on. I don't mean it the WYRD in a good way. There's stuff going on over there, all sorts of fucking stuff going on. It's hard not to get sucked in. It's hard not to get sucked in by it all, isn't it? But it's all done by design to literally get you out of your fucking like equilibrium. And people on their hair. I mean, yeah, it's a breeding ground for the nut jobs anyway, but excuse me, so it's a big push for the super fucking nut job. Losing. What's that? Remember that? Guns N' Roses. Use your illusion 1 and 2. Losing their illusion. It all seems to be like ramping up a little bit at the moment. Interestingly enough. I saw something really good, interesting yesterday. Well, I saw a lot of interesting things yesterday evening. One of them. Excuse me. This one might not be the longest live stream today, unfortunately. But let's find it.
These were the size and shapes of the condoms. These were the land masses that were actually taken out through the sinkholes. And this was Lemuria over here.
Yeah.
It was big. And all you've got left are the little Hawaiian Island pieces that are in through here. So this was showing the power of
There you
sinkholes.
go.
Really,
Oh, well, I had a bee.
It did create grid destability But they did it in a way. They did it through what are called harness fields, where you can actually harness a part of the land and not break the plates, not make the rods fully spin. Because if you get them spinning at a certain rate, that's when the cracking starts. So they didn't crack the plates when they progressively they just activated the spins of the rods to a certain degree, and literally it would be like a light wave ran through a piece of land, right? And then it started to vibrate like this. If you were standing on that land before you clicked off and disappeared with it, you would see almost like heat waves in the air as stuff started literally come apart, and then it would go pop and literally disappear from where it was and get drawn as energy, as light, as radiation down through the sinkhole and then remanifest on the other side wherever it was directed. So they kind of work like wormholes. So that is how they removed those continental pieces out of our maps. Next one, please. And that's what they're hoping to do with the whole thing, actually.
Yeah, the honeybee. I love honeybees.
This is getting into
Squirrel saved one the other day. I saved one a couple of years ago.
In St. Kitts are the safe zone maps. And the safe zone maps have to do with something called the Shield of Solomon, which is the is a host shield that is plugged into the larger host, but it also runs the frequencies of not only our A10 event horizon, E4 event horizon that we are on, that our systems are on, but our aggregate twin system in the cosmic spirit body, our universal cosmic spirit body, is the A10 system, the NOR A10 system. So that is the strongest frequency that you can actually bring down through the center into our event horizon. And the Kitts gate, which was the Adjugate 13 gate, Adjugate Shala 13. We have a Shala 13 gate over here in Corral, Peru. That is the core gate. Its Adjugate twin gate is over here in St. Kitts. And that's why they sent us to St. Kitts, because that is the point where you could anchor the first flows and hold open the flows of the vector line from A10 all the way through. So we're not just being supported by frequencies from our own event horizon, but we're going right across the center of our cosmic spirit body, our universal cosmic spirit body, and bringing in the stronger frequencies from the A10 vector. So that's why St. Kitts became very important as the fueling point for something called the Shield of Solomon. And the Shield of Solomon is meant to be able to run enough frequencies through the A10 gates to be able to prevent the Omega code, at least temporarily, to prevent the Omega code from shattering the grids, where it can counter the rod spins and it can keep the grids together long enough for a proper evacuation to take place. And the whole plan has been there for a long time. This infiltration hasn't just happened since 2000. This has been going on and on for millions of years. So this plan has been in order for quite a long time as well. As far as bringing the Shield of Solomon activation into Earth. The Shield of Solomon starts with a triangulation of energies. And the first part of it, they call expansion 1 of the Shield of Solomon, which is the one we did first, what we did in Kitts, was Kitts. And it actually connects in. There's like another line that will go from here. I didn't go from here and over to here. That connects Kitts into the watchtower. It also connects Kitts into Shaylon 7. And then Shaylon 7 back to the watchtower. Then Shaylon 7 all the way down to Corral, and Corral back to Kitts. So it creates this triangle here. And it has
taking in the whole football thing.
Then there's the level 2 expansion of the power core of the Shield of Solomon, which goes from Kitts all the way over to Adair, Ireland, and then back through to Shaylon and connects all this. Then there's another one we'll see on the other map that expands the size of this triangle, connects through to the Colorado Halo 7 grids, and allows it to connect into the harmonic points over here, which allows it to anchor the San Andreas Fault and stabilize a bit of the caldera stuff that's running through Yellowstone. So Halon, if we can get that secured, we're in the process. It looks promising that some very nice grid guardians are interested, and we'll see somewhere between January and June whether it is going to go to someone in the Guardian Azurite family, or if it's just going to go because we can't carry it. We can't carry the mortgage on it. Because we have that house we're paying the mortgage on. We have the house that they just want us to buy over there. We're carrying the mortgage on. And it's just too much. So we're going to see. So right now we don't have the California one activated yet, but they must feel positive about the grid handovers that are happening, because we literally, the Shaylon was bought by somebody in the group that is
trusted by the beloveds to hold frequency their properties as a key. Okay, but there, I believe one of the things, they give us a long list of things that by the end of this workshop, what is going to occur, I do believe they're activating Elon, so it is going to activate the larger triangulation. They're also activating Sentinel. Oh yeah, and the daaaa. They're also doing the daaaa, the initiation of the activation. And then when we go over to Ireland in 2009, we're going to finish that activation and do something else. There's another shield that connects into, I think, more into Europe. That's involved with that they haven't told me about yet, but first you have to initiate the activation of this thing. These are called sentinels. That's called a sentinel. The Kitsuke is referred to as a sentinel. Shaylon is considered a sentinel, and Elon is considered a sentinel. Then you have the watchtower, and we'll read a bit about the watchtower and what they actually do. The watchtower is the Carinatus point. So I'm going to be quite recording here today just because my computer is playing up and it's making a lot of noise, the fans and stuff, so we'll keep the recording short. And we're going to look at this book, The Phoenician Origins of the Britons, Scots and Anglo-Saxons by Ellie Waddell. And let's get into the chapter where we're at. Where was I looking at? So we're looking at chapter 28. Was it? No, 18, sorry. Chapter 18. Prehistoric cut markings on circles, rocks, and in Britain, and circles on ancient Britain. Now, anybody that looks at standing stones will be familiar with this saying, cut markings. You get these little round marks that are usually at the bottom of the stones, around about the stones, or on the stone circles. Usually get them on the larger stones, but they're called cut markings. Now, in this book, Ellie Waddell is telling us here what he believes them to be, and he associates each cut marking to do with each of the gods or goddesses that were worshipped in the ancient Babylonian and Akkadian and Sumerian skywalk. So, prehistoric cut markings on circles, rocks in Britain and circles in ancient Britain, coins and monuments as invocations to sun god in Sumerian cipher script by early Hitto-Phoenicians. Disclosing decipherment and translations by identical cut marks on Hitto-Sumerian seals and Trojan amulets with explanatory Sumerian script and Hitto-Sumerian origin of god names Yahweh or Yov, Indra, Indri, Thor, of the Goths, St. Andrews, Earth goddess Maya or May, the three fates, and the English names of numerals. Time which antiquates antiquities and have an art to make dust of all things have yet spared these minor monuments. Sir Thomas Brown, who erected the prehistoric stone circles in Britain, and amongst their descendants down to the Christian period, it is desirable here to see what light, if any, are newly found Hitto-Sumerian origin of the Britons.
Somebody's not very happy with me.
Prehistoric cut markings, which are sometimes found carved on stones in these circles, in funerary burrows, upon some standing stones, dolmens, and stone cyst coffins, and on rocks near ancient Britain, settlements over a great part of the British Isles. See figure 30. And in Scandinavia and other parts of Europe and the Levant, associated with megalith culture, and whose origins, carvers and meaning of cupbearers have now been completely forgotten. Cut markings in Britain and Troy.
Cheers, mate. How are you doing? Yes, I've just realised. Well, I'm always getting people trying to fuck with my shit, but a very clear sign of someone trying to psychically attack, or people psychically attacking you, is a milk turning sour when it shouldn't nowhere near be turning sour. I just got it this morning and it's already turning. Hang on a minute. And I've fucking forgotten that. I've forgotten that little fucking tidbit of knowledge. Oh, there we go. So, the defensive shields will be going up with the reflection, protection, and returning to the sender. Yeah, so I was saying about
admittedly
have you been
or patently improbable, and
interested
especially so
in the
delighted
old
to tell you that they
football
are
World Cup?
merely decorations.
And what about
And
the
I
old
have heard that
UFC? Did you
myself.
think
People
about
say
that yesterday? I just
they're
watched
just
the video. I thought,
decorations or they're
wow,
just
these people, these two
but
look
no, there's much
really
more to the
fucking
cup
don't look
marks
right
of the
at
stones.
all.
And I agree wholeheartedly with Elliot Waddle here. He's got something. And this book was written over 100 years ago, you know. So anyway, and the sad thing is that most of these stones are faded now, so you can't see a lot of the cup markings. As Arthur Collins says in his book, Stars with the Scholars, we need to do as much as we can to preserve these stones and barrels and the markings which are telling us of our own history, which has been forgotten. And so we have a number of stones there up to H, I think. A chamber balaclava in Inverness, another stone in the same area, a stone in the underground house of Ruth in Forshire, standing stone D in Ballymenach in Gailshire, another stone in the same area, a K stone 11 foot high, it's a huge stone near the British camp, and C, Coniston near Edinburgh, and the Jedburgh stone is G and H is Laws for Forfettshire. And as I observed that many of the ancient Britain's pre-Roman coins
have
were
you ever
also
been involved
studied
or
with
anyone
circles,
experienced that
single
sort of
and concentric, in groups or clusters,
psychic
figures in the next
projection
chapter, which
that you
generally
make?
resemble the prehistoric cut markings and that of some of the ancient Greco-Phoenician
Interesting
coins
stuff.
of Cilicia and Syrophoenicia. So what he's saying here is the cut marks that are on the standing stones throughout the British Isles, especially the ones here he's mentioned in Scotland, the cut marks are being ignored by the archaeologists and the astronomers, but the cut marks are actually marking the ancient gods and where the positions of the gods are in the sky. So, and also these can be found on the Greco-Phoenician coins of Cilicia and Syrophoenicia, which of course is all parts of the British Isles. Contained analogue groups of circles associated with the same divinities as in the Britain coins, and that many of the whorls or terracotta dug up from the ruins of ancient Troy by Schliemann, and which I have found where amulets also contain numerous depressed cut marks like the British in definite groups and associated with the solar swastika or thumb crosses, and containing Sumerian writing here hitherto unobserved and explanatory of the cups, and connecting the British cut marks with the Trojans, and so confirming the British chronicle tradition. I therefore turn to the
more you try, the less they want to
Hitto
listen.
Sumerians to find that they might supply a clue to the origin and the meaning of the Trojan and British cut marks. So these are quite elaborate pictures here. You can see these here. You've got the swastika, you've got the sun, the bits in the middle is the amulet with the rope going through here, this middle part.
Fascinating stuff, there's L.A. Woodall.
And, if you're familiar with Angus Collins' book,
Phoenician origin of Britons and Scots, or the Scottish, the British origin of
I then
Phoenician.
found that the ancient sacred seals and amulets of the Hittite or the Hitto-Sumerians from the 4th millennium BC onwards figured similar groups of circles, some of them ringed and associated with the sun and swastika.
Have you taken any notice of this World Cup at all? It's hard to know whether people are really interested in the States or not. I've watched bits of it. Oh, excuse me.
See figure 3-2, and that's the next figure coming up. And from their repeated reoccurrence attached to these figures of a particular god or gods, it seems clear that they were used to designate that particular god or gods see figure 33, which comes later. Further examination confirmed this. It thus became evident that these circles, arranged singly and in groups of specific numbers, formed a recognised method of designating particular gods or aspects of one universal god and his angels amongst the Hitto-Sumerians. Now remember, the Hitto-Sumerians, the Sumerians, Babylonians and Akkadians are all linked to each other in their sky culture and the stories of Marduk and so on. And so just different variations of the name Marduk, Adam, and so on and so on. In order to understand the meaning and the origin of the religious vows attached by the Sumerians to the circles and their numbers, it is necessary to refer to the system of numeration invented and used by the Sumerians, which is admittedly the basis of our own modern system of numerical notation. All the more so is this necessary, as I find that many of the names of our numerals in English and in the Aryan languages generally are all derived from the Sumerian names for these numbers, although this fact has not hitherto been noticed, surprisingly. This therefore affords still further evidence for the Sumerian origin of the Aryans and of the Britons and Scots and Anglo-Saxons in particular. Simple numerals were written by the early Sumerians by strokes such as / for 1, / for 2, / for 3, and we see that still in Roman, as he says here, and so on up until 9. A system which has survived the Roman numerals up until 4 and on the dials of modern clocks and watches, but when engraved on stones, these lower numeral strokes were at first formed by the easier process of drilling by the jewel drill worked by a bowstring fiddle, thus forming circular holes, not straight lines, thus so-called cups or cup marks. The numeral 1 was called by the Sumerians ana, un, or as, which is now seen as the Sumerian origin of our English 1. The Scot is ane, Anglo-Saxon is an, Old English is un, Gothic is ein, and in Scandinavian in, Greek onos, Latin unus, French un. And while as is now disclosed to be the Sumerian origin of our English ace, Old English as, Greek is, Latin as is unity, and it is of great significance that this word as, with the Sumerians also used for God as unity, is the usual title as or asta for the Father of India. Similarly, the number 2 was called by the Sumerians tab or dab, which is now disclosed as the Sumerian origin of our English word 2. Scot and Anglo-Saxon wa, Gothic tva or tve, Scandinavian tva, 2, Greek and Latin duo, Sanskrit dva, B and V or W being often interchangeable dialectically, and it's the same in Hebrew too. B and V are interchangeable. In fact, if you look at the keyboard, a keyboard, normal computer keyboard, you will see that B and V are right next to each other, and W is not that far away on the left side too. So,
yes.
The Sumerian reading for 3 is uncertain, but the numeral 4 reads Tar and Gadur, which thus equate with the Indo-Persian Kar, Latin Kutar, French Khoter, Sanskrit Katur, Gaelic Kethor, and our English quart and quarter. 6, as, and in the Akkadian Sisu, 7 Sesana, or 6 plus 1, and Siba in Akkad, and 8 is Usa, which equates with the Breton Ek, Is, and fairly with the Sanskrit Asta, and the sport of Gaelic Acht. And the Sumerian names of other numerals may also prove on re-examination to be more or less identical with the Aryan. The occult values attached to certain numbers by the Sumerians through ideas associated with particular numbers was the origin of the mystical use of numbers, such as the matriarch. And yes, in ancient religions to the east and Greece, referred to by Herodotus and other writers as current amongst the adepts in the mysteries of the Magians, Pythagoras, Eleusis, and later amongst the Gnostics, and surviving with some measure in religion to the present day. Thus, one Ashurity at first was secondarily defined by the Sumerians as complete and perfect, and thus also represented God, heaven, and earth. When formed by a circle or a cup mark, it especially represented the sun and sun god, who are also represented by a circle with a central dot in the Egyptian hieroglyphics. Different sizes of circles and concentric circles and semicircles or curved wedges had different numerical and mystical values attached to them, as shown in the accompanying figure. And all of these forms and groups of circles are found in the prehistoric cup marks within the British Isles. This early method of numerical notation by circles was especially used by the Sumerians in their religion to designate God and different aspects of the Godhead and heaven, earth and death, and in later polytheistic phase to distinguish a few different divinities, as we have seen in the Sacred Seal in figure 33. Thus, while the single circle or numeral for one was like the sign of the red sun itself, used to designate God as first cause, the sun and the sun god are latterly gods in general and in the heavens, but higher numbers and definite groups of small circles designating different members of the Godhead, as recorded in the bilingual Sumero-Akkadian glossaries. With the aid of these circle marks, we are able to identify the Sumerian god names on the seals and tablets with the names of the leading Aryan god of classic Greek and Roman, of the Indian Vedas, of the Gothic Vedas, and of the ancient Britons, and of course the Nordic Flora too, as inscribed on their pre-Roman coins and monuments, and not infrequently accompanied in the latter by the same groups of circle marks. In this table, for convenience of printing, an ordinary O type is used to represent the perfect circle of the origin. So 0, a circle, God as monad, Anna, the one, Lord, Father, God, I, or, Bel, or, Endura, sun god, Math, Masdu, Hor Mazda, see, which is the Hor Mazda is the straight way of God. To the Zoroasters, Hor Mazda was the name of the god, which means the glorious God, the glorious sun. Earth, heaven, and the sun. Sun god is the or Uu as a companion of God, also called Bazur, Ra, Zul, Sol. Also, he goes on to say, we thus. Let's just do this now a bit. No, did I miss it? I missed the page too. Yeah, that's after this. We thus find that the father god of the Sumerians and the Hittite Phoenicians, whose earliest known name as recorded on the Utdog trophy bowl of the 4th millennium BC is Zag or Zagaga, which with the soft G gives us the original of Zeus and Daius, and Sacha of the Vedas and Pali, and the father Seth or Yigal of the Gothic Nordic Eddas, is recorded by a single circle sign as having the equivalent of Aya or Bel, thus giving us the Aryan original sound of Ea or El or Jehovah, or the Hebrews' Father You, or Jupiter or Jove of the Romans. This title of Ea or Jove, the father god Bel, as represented by a single circle, is defined as meaning God of the house of the waters, which is seen to disclose the Sumerian source of the concept of Jove as Jupiter Pluvius of the Romans. This special aspect and function of Father God was obviously conditioned by the popular need of the early Aryans in their settled agricultural life for timely rain and irrigation of water for their flocks and herds, as well as the seafaring life. We therefore find him often represented in the sacred seals of the Sumerians and the Hittites from about 4000 BC onwards as holding the vase or vases of life-giving waters, as we see Aquarius, life which are seen issuing from his vase and which he, as the living God, bestows upon his votaries. See figure 35. This beautiful conception of the bountiful Father God by our early Aryan ancestors and the authors of the cut mark inscriptions which we see in all the standing stones, and so very remote period which is preserved in the sacred seals as well as the contemporary inscribed tablets, renders it desirable here to draw attention to the vast treasure house of authentic early history of our ancestors, which is conserved in the sacred seals of the Sumerians, Hittites, Phoenicians, and Kassi and other Babylonians in order to understand aright the cut mark inscriptions and symbols on the prehistoric Britain monuments and Britain coins and the deity who is thereon invoked within these. Many thousands of actual original seals of the early Aryan kings, high priests, nobles and officials, and many of them inscribed, have fortunately been preserved to us down through the ages. They form a vast picture gallery of authentic facts, vividly portraying not only the religious beliefs and ideals of our Aryan ancestors and their conception of God and the future life, but also preserve the contemporary portraits of early Aryan kings, queens, priests and people, the details of their dress and the high aesthetic feeling and civilization of those early periods, and the very highly naturalistic art and technique displayed in the drawings is all the more remarkable when it is remembered that the drawing is on such a minute scale and delicately engraved on hard jewelled stones. These seals and contemporary tablets records disclose the important fact that the Aryan father god Bel was already imagined in human form and in the model of the beneficent earthly king so early as about 4000 BC. He is of fine Aryan type with Gothic horn chaplet rich robes and usually enthroned beside the sun. This was evidently also the concept of the universal God by our Aryan ancestors, even when the more idealistic of them refrained from making his graven image and figured him merely by the simple circle of unity and perfection, as engraved on many Hitto-Sumerian seals and on the cut mark inscriptions in prehistoric Britain. Although calling him Aya or Jove, that same word sign was also read by the Sumerians as Indura, to endure, the Indara of the Hittites, the Andara of the Vedas, and the Indri of the divine title of Thor in Gothic Eddas. And this name of Indara, we shall find later, is the source of the name of the supernatural, miraculous part of the church legend of St. Andrews, the patron saint of the later Goths, Siths, and Scots. The jewel circles are cups for the sun, connote the ancient idea that the sun apparently moved round the earth and returned east for sunrise under the earth or ocean somehow so as to form two phases as the day sun and the night of the submarine returning sun, a notion also believed by the writers of the Hebrew Old Testament. These dual cycles for the sun denoting his day and night phases seen in figure 33 are again seen in the seal of about 2400 BC in figure 36, which represents the owner of votive seal being introduced by the archangel Taziel to the resurrecting sun god, two-headed as before, emerging on the east or the left hand from the waters of the deep, and behind him the swimming fish god of the deep, wherein the sun god's name is written Ra or Zal, inscribed immediately underneath the two circles. These names for him now disclose the Sumerian source of the Egyptian Ra and the Sanskrit Ravi. By the way, Ravi and Rabbi is the Hebrew. Rabbi is B and V are interchangeable, remember. So Sanskrit Ravi or Rover, and name for the luminary and his presiding deity. Remember the wandering stars of the rovers, and Coronation Street and the rovers return, and Flag Rover and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, the rovers and the wandering planets. Well, that was the Sumerian source of the Gothic, Latin and Old English song. This dual phase of the sun's apparent progress westwards and back again eastwards was familiar to the ancient Britons and Scots, as seen in numerous prehistoric rock and other sculptures, and in early Britain coins where the night or the returning sun is figured as a second disk, joined by bars to the day sun as the so-called spectacles of Scottish archaeologists figures in next chapter, or as double spiral, with the night sun spiral figured as a spiral in the reverse or returning direction. It is also similarly figured in the Hittite seals and on Phoenician sacred vessels from the Levant, from Crete, and from the Aegean, Sea, both as the conjoined double disc and as the double spiral with the second reverse or the returning, and this latter is sometimes shown in both Hittite and in ancient Britain and Scot representations as entering the gates of the night, wherein the gates have the same lattice pattern, and it also is to be noticed that in these Scottish prehistoric sculptures, the sun is represented by two cup marks, as in the Hitto-Sumerian. This again evidences this dual phase of the sun's apparent progress westwards and back again eastwards, was familiar to the ancient Britons, as seen in the numerous prehistoric rocks and other sculptures in early British coins, where the night of the returning sun is figured as a second disc. I jumped that origin, so we'll just leave that there because my computer's actually not making too much noise, but yeah, you can scroll through, you can go back at your own time and read that, but I think I've read enough there. There's a lot of Bath and Somerset must be one of Britain's most interesting cities. It certainly gets its fair share of attention and tourists, that's for sure. There are said to be over 6 million visitors per year passing through the city's roaring baths and the old 7th century abbey grounds, the pump house. That's a considerable amount of activity and energy passing through one area at any given time. 6 million visitors per year are the figures provided by the tourist information boards. But how many more souls are actually traversing through the great city streets daily, just going about their business, unaware of their ancient city's history and past? Of course, if you live in Bath, you will most likely know a great deal of its history. But what of its peculiar architecture and vast canal systems? Do you know why these waterways envelop the city as they do? Who designed them this way, and for what purpose? Is there a purpose to any city's design? There certainly is with the city of Bath. We will see as we go on. Do you know why your southern district is named Combe Down, or Odd Down, or why you have an English Combe Lane? In fact, you'll find the word comb in abundance in the area. Who named them as such, and why did someone choose these names over any other possible names? The local councils, the heads of the planning departments, must be initiated members of several secret groups, because no matter which city or town I examine, every street, every thoroughfare, old and new, has a celestial connection, and even modern constructions and new developments, they're all being laid out exactly in the same manner. As above, so below. When we study the tales in the heavens, as I have for many years, you begin to see familiar names pop up time and time again in specific areas of the country. But not just areas of one country. You see these names and phrases popping up elsewhere in the world too, especially in the big media stories. I'm sure we're all familiar with the tales of Queen Elizabeth and her husband Philip being accused of abducting and possibly murdering 10 children at a Canadian residential school back in the 60s. It was all over social media platforms and created quite a stir in the early days when everyone was just awakening. I had come across the story back in 2014 and I was fervently posting about it on Facebook at the time. The English royal couple were accused by a Presbyterian minister known as Kevin Annett of taking 10 children out on a picnic but never returning them to the school, suggesting that they had been murdered or abducted and taken away by Elizabeth and Philip, or one of their counterparts. William Arnold Coon was said to be the child, a pupil at the school at the time, who witnessed the abduction and later informed the minister known as Kevin Annett, who then led a campaign to have the royal couple arrested. It was a huge media story and so widely circulated that it was one of those early truth bombs which kind of woke everybody up. Is the story true? It may have an element of truth to it, but one thing I know for certain now, something which I've become very aware of, these big news stories and the names of characters being bandied about are all part of the ongoing spell. And that spell is every part of a celestial code. And it's most likely there to awaken us. I've been saying to